Okay, in these words we're looking at some unusual plural forms. So you may remember that the rule for a word ending with an O or an A, we may need two vowels before we add the S. So we've got ideas, videos, radios and kangaroos. Pianos, sopranos and avocados do not have to have two vowels before the S, even though they end in O because of different reasons. So pianos is short for pianoforte. We've taken out the word forte, so that's we're left with the word pianos. That's why we're not putting the E in. Soprano is a Latin word and avocado is a Spanish word, so therefore the English rule of having two vowels before an S on words ending with O doesn't apply. Now in roofs, chiefs and dwarfs, sometimes we change the F to a V before we add the plural S, but in these words we don't change it. And the best way to work out whether you do or you don't is to listen to the way you say the word. So if you hear yourself saying roofs with the F, you leave the F in. If you hear it changing to a V, like knife to knives, you can feel your teeth go to your lips and you're forming the V. You would then change the F to a V. But these three we're leaving with the F intact. Now let's go through and quickly have a look at any other things that we can see happening in these words. Kangaroo, we usually use a C before an A for the curt sound, but this is an Indigenous Australian word, and initially it was a G at the start when they've changed that to the letter K as representative of that sound. Piano, you can just sound out that word. Soprano is pretty easy. Roofs, you've got the double O. Chief, I before E except after C where the sound is E. Yes, the sound is E, so we're using the I before the E. CH, you know, is a ch sound. Dwarfs, we know that after a W, a WH or a QU, we're allowed to use AR for the all sound. So we've got dwarf, after the W, we've got the AR. Wharf, as to where boats pull into a harbour, is WH, ARF. And quarter is in reference to the QU before the all sound, quarter. Okay, let's look at what these words mean. So ideas are a thought or a suggestion that you may have. A video is a moving visual image on a screen. A radio is a receiving device for a radio or an audio broadcast. A kangaroo is an Australian marsupial animal. A piano is a musical instrument. A soprano is someone who sings at the highest level. Avocado is a fruit, a green fruit, and it has a very large seed inside it. And it's often used in salads and quite often used as a breakfast food now too. A roof is covering on a building. It protects the building from rain and sun, from the weather. Chief is the leader of a group of people, and a dwarf means a small living thing. So it could be a plant, and here we can see the seven dwarfs, a picture of the seven dwarfs from the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Our list today is for unusual plurals. So if we have a word ending in O or A, we need to have two vowels before the S. So sometimes you may have to add an E after the O, but in these words you don't because we've already got the two vowels. So we've got ideas, videos, radios, kangaroos, where we've got two vowels and then the S. Pianos comes from the word pianoforte. So if we want to make that a plural, it would be pianofortes, but because we've taken away the forte, we've moved the S to straight after the pianos. That's why it doesn't have that E before the S. Sopranos is a Latin word, avocados is a Spanish word, so that is why they don't have that English rule apply to them, because they're not English words. Now with roofs, chiefs and dwarfs, we're not changing the F to a V as we commonly do in words ending with F that we want to change into a plural. So the simple way to do this and understand whether you do change the F to a V or not is to listen to the way you say the word. So roof, roofs, chief, chiefs. You can hear the F is retained. Whereas if you say knife and knives, you can hear that the F changes to a V, and that's what you must do when you spell the word. Now down here you just have to finish the words and write them next to the correct meaning. So add those S's in, rewrite the words here next to their meaning. Down the bottom you have to fill in the gap with the list word, and of course the words are all up the top of the page to make that easier for you. The last question is a bit of research. It says research the names of the 7 dwarfs in Snow White. You may know some of them from memory, otherwise you're going to have to look them up. Our words today are unusual plural, so we've got ideas, videos, radios and kangaroos. So you can see these words that end in O. The rule is that you must have 2 vowels before adding the S. Now pianos comes from the wording should be piano fortes, so we've taken out the forte and moved the S straight back onto the piano. That's why there's not an extra vowel there. Sopranos is an old Latin word. Avocados is a Spanish word, so English rules don't apply to words from other languages. Now in roofs, chiefs and dwarfs, you can hear the F is not changing to a V as it commonly does in many other words. And the way to know whether it does or not is to listen to what the word sounds like when you add the S. So when you say roofs, you can hear the F there, so you know you're retaining it. Now these are just changing the singular form into its plural form. Down here you've got verb families. I really think you need to discuss that as a group as you're going. There are maybe some tricky bits in it for you. Proofreading, you have to circle the correct word in the line and write it over here. Hopefully you're going to get those all quite easily after the work you've done. Now down the bottom we've got idioms. So idioms are common sayings that you may hear people use in everyday speech. So you have to know what these mean because you're going to see them used in a lot of the books that you read. So what does to hit the roof mean, or what does to raise the roof mean? They're quite different meanings, so we want you to write down each of those. And then what is a kangaroo court? You may need to do some research on this, but basically it's an unofficial court held by a group in order to try someone without good evidence as guilty of a crime. So if you're not sure about writing that, then do research it and write your own answer. Today's page is about unusual plural. So replace the singular noun with its plural form. These ones are nice and easy and they follow the spelling rules for plural nouns. So we've got, you might have to add an S, you might have to add an ES, and if the word ends in a Y and there's a consonant before the Y, you have to change the Y to an I before you add ES. So you've got my hat will go on the shelf. We need to make it a plural, so it will be my hats will go on the shelf. You can read those, and the word above, the noun is above the space, so you've got to work out how to write it in its plural form on the line. So these are irregular plurals, which means none of this applies to them. We're going to actually change the base word. So the plural of man will change to a different base word. The plural would be men. The person yelling loudly must love watching the game. We're talking about, we know these are all going to be plurals, so we want person in its plural form. You can work your way through those. Then collective nouns. These are words that we give a group of an animal. And these are a little bit tricky because we're not doing anything, we're not changing the noun at all. So the something will bite the bait. Now, sheep, if we have one sheep or a whole mob of sheep, or we want to talk about a paddock full of sheep, we just use the word sheep, even if it's one or more than one. The same with deer. Now fish, we say fish, even though we might be talking about one fish. The only time we'd use fishes as a plural noun is if we're talking about different types of fishes, different types of fish. So that would be the only change with fish. You can have a go at that on your own and maybe check each other's work to make sure that you have all got it correct.